The topic of feeding and nutrition is one of the most sought-after topics in pigeon racing. Everyone wants to learn about this subject. Not only is it a sought-after subject, but it's also one of the most essential topics in our sport. Without proper feeding and nutrition, it doesn't matter how good your birds are or how well they are trained. If they don't have the proper nutrition to withstand racing, then your results will suffer no matter what. Just like any other athlete, both human and animal, proper nutrition can be the difference between success and failure. There is one problem when it comes to this subject that we hope that we can solve in this program. The problem with feeding and nutrition is that there is no one way to do it. What I mean by that is nutrition is 100% dependent on what racing systems you're using, what cycle your pigeons are in, whether you're racing short, middle, or long distance, whether you're focusing on young birds, old birds, or breeders, and many other variables that lay in between. Each specific thing requires different nutritional requirements. During the racing season, the main function of food is to provide the fuel for flying. Our common aim is to provide the racing pigeon with the best fuel for race day. To do this consistently, we must have a good understanding of the food itself. Only practice and observation can teach you the art of feeding, but hopefully the methods of feeding described here can help you find the pathway to feeding success. We can only begin the art of good feeding when both the quality of the food is guaranteed and the flock is healthy. A healthy bowel is required before we can test our feeding systems, because an unhealthy bowel fails to deliver the fuel of good grain to the pigeon's body. Bowel diseases such as E. coli, coccidiosis, worms, and wet canker all decrease the amount of nutrients entering the body. By using the best quality grains and with a healthy race team, the fancier can now think about a racing mix appropriate for his particular family of birds and training methods. The mix chosen must provide a good balance of protein amino acids, and for this to be achieved, at least 8 different grains must be used. After this balance is achieved, the energy content of the mix becomes the most important part of successful feeding. The feed system provides the race team with the correct energy levels for training and racing. The goal of feeding is to provide the training and racing pigeon with exactly enough, not too much and not too little fuel energy in the food for sustained flight, loft exercise, or racing. Of course, the fuel requirements of the training pigeon vary enormously from day to day. It is the constantly changing energy requirements of the competition pigeon that makes feeding such a challenge to even the best fanciers. The competition pigeon will not perform to its fitness level when the energy balance is incorrect. The energy balance must be assessed short-term daily and long-term weekly with fit flocks during the race season, because the fitness level will drop both when too much and too little energy is supplied. During young bird training, special attention must be made to prevent depletion of the energy reserves in the liver and muscle. Overfeeding relative to workload positive energy balance renders the race team less competitive because of excess baggage leady. Excess energy is stored as fat with subsequent loss of buoyancy and fitness. It is well to remember that the excess energy of mixes which are too high in protein legumes relative to the workload will be stored as fat. Underfeeding relative to workload negative energy balance renders the race team less competitive because of depowering. Feed systems low in energy relative to the workload of the race team will result in the depletion of the energy reserves in the liver, fat, and muscle. You the fancier can recognize a race team that is in a negative energy balance by the following signs. 1. No wing flapping in the early morning or after feeding. 2. Disinterest in leaving loft or toss basket, lower lid laziness. 3. The race team in negative energy balance inadequate energy intake relative to the workload is susceptible to illness, especially respiratory diseases. That's it for part 1 of Feeding Secrets. Check out part 2 for more winning feeding secrets. Thanks for watching. Please like, share and subscribe. Introduction to iSign. No matter what your views on iSign are, studying iSign can give you lots of information about your pigeons and can greatly speed up your success. After all, information is key to becoming successful at pigeon racing, so the more information you can acquire about your birds, the better. However, iSign is only a very small part of the large pigeon racing picture, and decisions on racing or breeding should never be made solely on iSign alone. There are many other factors besides iSign that a fancier should look at in order to be successful in pigeon racing, such as ancestry, breeding ability, racing ability, size, shape, feathering, anatomy, etc., etc. All of these things combined are what separates the champions from the rest and ace fanciers from the hobbyist. Eye sign is most effective when used for breeding selection purposes, but once you become more experienced and comfortable with eye sign, it can also be used as a guide to figure out birds' possible racing capabilities. Knowledge of eye sign can greatly assist you in breeding better birds and staying on top, as well as allowing you to keep fewer and better birds rather than a lot of worthless ones. When it comes to eye sign, there are only two tools that a fancier will need for successful eye sign research: the loupe and light. The loupe will allow you to magnify the pigeon's eye while you examine it, and proper lighting will allow you to see the reflex action of the pupil the moment the light hits the eye. It is in this first second of the reflex action that you will learn the value of a bird as a breeder. Reflex is the action of the eye muscles pulling the iris proper down over the pupil, giving the impression of the pupil getting smaller when the light hits it. In reality, it does not move at all. This reflex action is what allows us to make our best judgment of the eye and its value by allowing the circles to be seen in an enlarged state. This is the only proper way of making a grading. You will want to try to block out as much light as possible when putting the loupe in your eye, so that you will get a good look at the eye's reflex action. You will want to conduct your eye sign research with the brightest sunlight possible, usually at high noon. This will give you the most accurate results. Always remember to check both eyes. No two birds' eyes are the same, just as both eyes of the same bird are not the same. It is also important to remember to look at both eyes, because the left eye will generally show you the best eye sign quality of each bird. To learn more about the eye sign in detail, including the breeding eye, middle and long distance eye and sprinting eye in detail, check out the link below this video. Thank you for watching. Please like, share and subscribe. Introduction to eye sign.